Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'm watching Why Does Heathrow Need to Expand by Mapman. I watched a video about why London has so many airports a long time ago and I just kind of forgot about this. And I've forgotten most things from that video, but there is a recap here from the previous video, at least that's what it seems like, so maybe that'll jog my memory.
Previously on Unfinished London.
Not much of a recap, okay.
London has 6 airports: Heathrow, Gatwick, Stansted, Luton, Southend City. But the biggest and most important by far is Heathrow. Here it is in 1945. It used to have 6 runways arranged in this shape. And here it is in 2014. 2 of the runways have been embiggened so that today's massive planes can use them. The terminal has been completely rebuilt and new ones added here, here, here and here. The 4 old runways haven't been used for decades because they're too short now, but they can still clearly be seen. From above, you can see just how huge Heathrow has now become.
It is
Today,
quite massive,
Heathrow
yeah?
has become the busiest international airport on the planet. More than a third of the 70 million passengers who use Heathrow every year are not even visiting London. They're changing planes on all sorts of improbable journeys, from Hong Kong to Honduras, Moscow to Miami, and Aberdeen to Abu Dhabi. Why should we care about all these people who use our airport without even popping in to say hello?
Okay, this is green screen. He's not actually sitting there.
They bring in cash from the airport tax. They bring in cash for British Airlines. Passengers with a long wait for their connecting flight will spend a night in London, contributing to the local economy. And it makes London the best place to do business. London contributing to the local economy.
I don't think this is contributing to the local economy.
London the best place to do business. But not for long. Heathrow, with its 2 runways, is starting to fall massively behind its rival hub airports in Europe, such as Paris Charles de Gaulle, which operates 24 hours a day, Madrid Barajas, which has 4 huge runways, and Amsterdam's Schiphol, with a staggering 6 runways and still room to expand further if it wants to. Everywhere you look around the world, this is what modern airports are supposed to look like in 2014, and Heathrow is starting to look helplessly small.
Yeah. It actually looks very small compared to those other ones.
Because its location, in what's now become the middle of the suburbs, means it's hemmed in by thousands of disgruntled neighbours. So what's it like living?
Yeah, that's quite a shitty situation. It's in the middle of the city, well, the suburbs, so now you can't even expand it, even though it desperately needs to expand because it's tiny compared to other international airports. Obviously, you can't just tear down people's homes and evict them, get rid of them. You can't just do that. So yeah, there really is no solution. You just have to expand the other airports or make more that are outside of the city or on the city outskirts.
Living next door to the world's busiest airport.
Well, as you can imagine, it's impossible.
Yeah, can't hear anything because they're just constantly flying.
Human sacrifices.
To placate the residents of Hounslow...
What?
Human sacrifices.
To placate the residents of Hounslow, Richmond and Windsor, the British... Shut up! British Aviation Authority has a number of restrictions on the airport. No flights are allowed between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m, so the locals can get some sleep.
But during the day, planes can take off every 46 seconds. If the slightest delay occurs, the knock-on effects can go on for hours. And landing's really tricky too. In such a crowded airport, planes often have to go round and round in circles, waiting for the runway to be free.
Isn't that just typically British? Just like with our trains and our sport, we got there first and now we're the worst. In 2001, a plan was put forward to get Heathrow back in competition. And it was one of the most controversial British plans in British planning history plans.
They suggested building a 3rd runway north of the current 2. All they had to do to make room for it was destroy an entire village.
Yeah.
Very unsurprisingly, the local residents were furious and terrified.
You can't just tear down their homes.
A Heathrow campaign was started, backed by Greenpeace, the Conservative Party, and celebrity impressionist Alistair McGowan. So the designers apologised and came up with a better plan, extending the current runways to the west, where the only things in the way are the M25 and a reservoir.
Even more problems.
Again, why didn't they just think of that in the first place?
But the protesters still weren't happy. The point was, an expanded Heathrow would become the biggest producer of CO2 in the country. A pretty irresponsible move given how serious we now know the issue of climate change to be. Expanding Heathrow would be a disaster. But if Heathrow stayed...
Yes, I'm sure that expanding an airport would cause massive problems. The amount of emissions that having extra runways on Heathrow would produce is tiny. It would be completely insignificant in the grand scheme of things. It would change absolutely nothing. But like most activists, those people are probably just a bunch of uninformed idiots who don't even know what they're protesting for. I've noticed that's a trend with protesters. Activists, they often protest about things they know nothing about. But whatever news they listen to told them that this is bad and you should protest because of it, so they do it. But I digress. It's not a video about that topic, so let's just get back to the airport.
At its current size, it would lose its hub status within a decade. If Heathrow falls behind, London falls behind. And if London falls behind, the UK falls behind. And that simply couldn't be allowed to happen. Ow.
A massive do expand
Well, this video is about 10 years old, and that's exactly what happened. They fell behind.
Heathrow campaign was started, backed by airlines.
Okay, so in January 2025, this year, 10 years after that video was made, the government invited Heathrow Airport to bring forward proposals for a third runway. And they're going to do so by summer this year. It's been 10 years and they still haven't expanded. And allegedly, the expansion could take 10 years. It's already been a decade and they got nothing done. And it could be another decade before they, once again, most likely get nothing done. So basically 20 years of time just completely wasted with absolutely no progress. Amazing. Amazing.
Trade unions and celebrity business beard Richard Branson. Not expanding Heathrow would be a disaster.
It seems that no matter what the government decide to do, they'll be pissing off a lot of people. How on earth do you reconcile the demands of the locals, the economy, the airlines, and the environment?
Would it really be that difficult to move a small village? I mean, I don't know how big it was or how big it is nowadays, but I don't know. I feel like it would be far better to try and move them someplace else, rehouse them, and build that third airstrip so that you can actually get something done instead of sitting on your ass for 10 years and doing absolutely nothing. But whatever. Not my country, not my problem.
Environment. One man who thinks he has the solution to everything is Tory Mayor of London, Boris Johnson.
Well, I propose that we open the airport in the city. We'll work the plan for the thing. Once the whole
No idea what he's saying.
The whole thing will be built.
That looks very nice. However, I've watched the video Britain is a dump, and the British would never be able to get this done. They're never gonna get something as ambitious as this done. Ever. It's not gonna happen.
Boris Island, like many other things named after him, wasn't actually his idea, but I have to admit, it is a really catchy name. It's basically the same idea as the one suggested in the 1970s by Captain Stupid Name. And building an airport on reclaimed land in the middle of the sea has been done loads of times before. The Japanese do it all the time.
Kansai, Narita,
Yeah, that's true.
Chubu, Nagasaki.
The advantages of Boris Island can be most clearly seen from Google Earth. The site is huge. There's space for 4 runways, plus plenty of room in the sea for a few more. Planes can take off and land 24 hours a day, because it's over water rather than land, so there's no one nearby to complain about the noise. At least, no one who matters. But the scheme has plenty of disadvantages too. Boris Island raises more questions than it answers, such as,
How are people going to get from London to the new airport? More trains onto the already crowded high-speed one? A new motorway? There's not much room for either of those.
what about the environment? The Thames Estuary Airport is no better for CO2 emissions than an expanded Heathrow. In fact, it's a lot worse. How long is it going to take? If Boris Island does go ahead, it won't be finished for at least another 30 years, and I don't plan to live that long. And finally,
30 years, so that's still 20 years left. Holy shit. There's no way something like that should take 30 years. That just reeks of incompetence by the government.
the biggest question of them all, who's going to pay for it? Sources estimate that the entire scheme will cost more than £100,000. While the
That's it?
politicians bicker about whether or not Boris
No, he definitely said that wrong.
£100,000 pay for it. Sources estimate that the entire scheme will cost more than £100,000.
Maybe he said it wrong? Maybe he meant £100 million? Because £100,000 is nothing. I think that's a mistake.
While the politicians
Or a
bicker
joke.
about whether or not Boris Island will ever actually be built, there's something I'm particularly fascinated by that no one seems to have mentioned. If Boris Island replaces Heathrow and Heathrow gets closed, what are they going to put in its place? We've already seen what happened to London's first generation of airports that closed in the 50s, but Heathrow's different from all of these because it's huge. It's 3,000 acres of totally flat land served by the Piccadilly line and Crossrail and the M4 and the M25 and millions of people already living nearby. So, what would you do with Heathrow?
Farming mostly. West London needs a green lung.
A massive lawn with an angle.
Farming mostly. West London needs a green lung. Oh, the green belt is not enough. All that wasted land you could have used for something is not enough. You need more? Jesus Christ.
Angry guy telling you to get off my land!
A house big enough for your mum?
Solve our prison overcrowding problem by building an offenders village.
An airport.
Game of Thrones land. Dun 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 dun.
This is all nonsense. It'll basically be another Canary Wharf. I'm a geography teacher.
Nando's! Hashtag Nando's! Hashtag I love Nando's!
Disappointingly, it turns out that if they build Boris Island, Heathrow is staying open anyway. So, if Boris Island's too radical and expanding Heathrow's too unpopular, then what else could we do to solve the capacity problem?
Stansted and Luton have both offered themselves up for embiggening, arrogantly thinking they can replace Heathrow. Gatwick wants to build a second runway, and there's even talk of connecting up Gatwick to Heathrow with a new railway, in the naive assumption that travellers will be willing to use both airports as a super inconvenient double hub.
There is a fourth option, doing nothing. After all, is London
Which is what they
justified in
did.
wishing to remain an international hub? If you actually look at the economic argument, it's all built on potential future business. Suspiciously, everybody who says that London needs an international hub stands to make quite a lot of money from it. Is it just possible that Heathrow's future as a decent-sized airport really wouldn't be so bad? In any case, it's not up to me. Going on right now as we speak is a commission to answer the question once and for all. Sir Howard Davis, the modern-day equivalent of Roskill, has until the general election in 2015 to come up with the answer. Whatever he decides, we won't know if he's made the right decision until about 2053, when it'll be really obvious what he should have done.
The future has always been about flying. A simulation of the future doesn't look right unless it's got things whizzing through the air.
Well,
But
this
what
will
does the
never
future
happen.
really hold for air travel? Will there be bigger planes whizzing through the
Tell me, how would you possibly control traffic if we have flying cars? Can you imagine how terrible that would be? Traffic is already bad enough when you're driving on the ground, but if everybody is flying, do you realize how much worse it's gonna get? Because if you're flying, theoretically, you could go wherever the hell you want. You don't need to go along set paths, like you need to do on roads. It would just be chaos. People would just do whatever the hell they want. It's unrealistic for something like this to ever exist, because it would be too difficult to regulate and control.
air. But what does the future really hold for air travel? Will there be bigger planes? Vertical takeoff? Space travel? The end of civilization before technology has time to improve?
We have no option but to guess. We've been getting it slightly wrong for the last 100 years, and it looks like we'll continue getting it wrong for many years to come.
It's been 10 years since this video was released, and Heathrow still hasn't expanded, and it probably never will, due to the problems that are plaguing London and just the United Kingdom as a whole, which is mainly government incompetence and old people. I mean, just watch Britain is a dump, and you'll see exactly why nothing is gonna change. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider subscribing and leaving a like. If you're interested, why not watch this video right here? And with that, I hope I'll see you in the next video.